Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 2018 Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of Carmel. Board members' names are in front of you on the podium. I'd like to welcome John Starace, who is our newest member. This is his first meeting, and John spent his tenure on the ECB for 4 or 5 years. And we welcome you to the board, and you'll be a welcome addition.
Thanks for having us.
Code Enforcement Officer Mike Carnazza is with us, as well as the Town Council, Greg Fulchetti. The way we operate is we'll hear the cases, I'll ask you to come up, I'll swear you in, and if more than one person's going to be speaking, I'll swear you both in. Unless you're counsel, you're no need to be sworn in. We'll hear the case, and then we'll ask for input from the public, we'll ask for input from the board members, and then once the case is closed, there's no further input allowed. So we apologize for the delay, or like I said, we have to record this as a matter of town record. So will you please all rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Our first case tonight, or new applications all, is application of estate of Cassie Kelly Russo, exec, for a variation of section 156.15, seeking permission to retain an existing deck. Property is located at 1363 Route 6, Carmel, New York, and is known by tax map 5415-123. You guys are here? Okay.
Mr.
Come on
Chairman,
up,
I have
state
to
your name
recuse myself.
and address for the record. And reminder to speak clearly into the microphone, because again, it's being recorded.
Hey, John? I'm just going to go. I'm going to recuse myself.
All right, yeah, thanks. Raise your right hands. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, just state your names and address for the record, please.
Kelly Russo, 592 Wood Road, Mahopac, New York, 10541.
Vincent Russo, 592 Wood Road, Mahopac, New York, 10541.
Okay. All right, guys, bring us through what relief you're seeking here.
We're looking for a variance, retaining a deck for 25 feet. We didn't know about, we just found out about it going through title search because I'm handling the estate of my mother and stepfather of Gary Cassie. So when we were going through the process of doing the paperwork to close, they found that the deck wasn't listed on the survey. But I lived there when I was 12, since we bought the house when I was 12, and there was a deck there, so.
So the deck was there from that long ago?
Yeah.
So what, 20-some-odd years?
I'm trying to think, 30.
Oh, wow,
There was a
okay.
deck, yeah.
So it's been there a while. They never realized they needed a permit or
We don't know.
a
I
variance
really
for it?
don't know.
So
I got handed the
it
station.
predates you, okay.
I was a kid.
So, yeah, I was out there the other night, it's pretty well screened, there's a lot of trees and stuff around, I mean, the leaves fell down, but it's still pretty screened pretty well, so it didn't look like it was encumbering on anybody's view or anything. The neighbors obviously don't have an issue with it, unless someone's here, but as far as you know, there's no issue with it. And what would be the cost to have it removed and brought into conformity? A few thousand?
We don't even know, I didn't know I do it.
We didn't go down that route.
Okay.
This is all new to us.
I would imagine it'd be a few thousand to relocate and have it rebuilt, and probably more than that, actually. So I'll go to the board members for any questions or concerns.
No questions.
No question.
Bill?
The deck that's shown in the photos as part of the application, is that the deck that's been there for 30 years, or is that a newer deck?
We believe that
Yeah.
that's, well, I don't know, but that's,
Yeah, since I've been there.
Okay.
No further questions, thank you.
Was it repaired in any way? It looks like it's in very, very good shape.
Yeah, we actually, over the summer, right?
we had it
repaired
power washed and stained. And we
And-
had the footing on the bottom just redone 2 months ago, 3 months ago, on the
And-
base.
The footing
the
on
railing was
pad,
replaced?
this pad?
Yes.
We had that put down a
Yes.
couple of months ago.
That looks new also.
Yeah, so these are called sonotubes? Those were just done as well?
Those were done in August, I believe, the footings.
did they need a permit for footings, or?
They're getting a permit now for everything.
We had to wait to
Okay.
get the
Once they
permit.
get the variance, they're gonna come get a permit
I
for
got you.
everything.
All right, so it brings it up to newer codes anyway, so it's a better fit.
They're not looking for the interpretation that it was pre-existing, they're looking to legalize what's there.
Okay. Rose, anything?
It appears that there's an elevation, your neighbor is much higher than you are, so it really doesn't affect your neighbor because they'd have to look down,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, that's it.
John?
You wish to keep this deck, right?
Yes.
And Mike, this deck's up to code.
Don't know that yet.
Okay.
When I go there, after they get the variance, then they'll get a building permit, then we go out there and take a look at it. At that time, we'll tell him if he needs to do anything.
So as long as it meets the code.
Okay.
Railings.
It looks like,
Steps.
from the pictures, it looks like it's pretty up to date, so. At this point, I'll ask for any input from the public on this application. If no input, I'll look for a motion from the board to close this public
So
matter.
moved.
Do I have a
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, folks. And just a reminder, you guys can stick around and wait for our decision after we adjudicate for your cases, or you can go home and watch it on TV if it's still running. I think it's on Channel 24 for Verizon, and what's,
I think it's 8 for Comcast, I think, I'm not sure.
8 or 78?
One of those.
All right, one of those.
One of those.
If you know where it is, you know where to find it.
And you gotta get Netflix.
All right, application number 2, Calasante. And good evening. I was going to read the description here. This application of Roland and Bonnie Calasante for variation of section 156.15, seeking permission to construct a second-floor addition and rebuild a garage. The property is located at 36 Dixon Lake Drive, Mahopac, New York, 10541. All right, you guys are, state your name.
Craig Colasante, 366 Hosner Mountain, Stormville, New York.
Okay.
Danielle Colasante, 366 Hosner Mountain Road, Stormville.
Raise your right hands, please. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, thanks. Bring us through what you're looking to do here.
Well, we are looking to put a second-story addition onto the existing house and then do a repair to the garage.
All right,
And
so
I
you-
should mention a front porch as well.
Okay, so you're basically staying on the same footprint except for the porch that's going to encroach
That's correct.
towards the front. I was out there the other night. It doesn't seem like it's out of character for the neighborhood. There were a couple of new, in fact, across the street, there was a newer addition or newer renovation that looks like what you're trying to match here. You talked to the neighbors on either side?
Yes, the neighbor across the street is in favor.
Do me a favor, speak into the mic because it's hard to
The
pick
neighbor
up.
across the street is in favor. The house also across the street is vacant. The one next to that is in favor, and the house right next door is the applicant's house
Oh,
also,
okay.
so they're in favor also, obviously.
Okay, good. There's no other, like, is there septic in the way? You can't go back further?
Well, the existing house is in that footprint.
Is
That's
the
what-
foundation strong enough so you want to build off of that? too?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
we don't need to change the foundation.
And then the garage, you're just using the same walls, just going up with a higher ceiling or a
Nope,
roof?
just repairing the existing garage.
Okay. All right, board members? Mark?
No questions.
Jill?
Porch is minimal, no questions.
No.
No questions.
No.
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
John?
No questions.
Just for
All
the
right.
record, there's no variance required for the garage.
Garage, yeah.
Yeah, it's existing. All right, any input or questions from the public on this application? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, folks.
Thank you.
All right, number 3, Daturo Naito. Sorry if I mispronounced that.
Tacoma.
Tacoma?
Toma?
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
And this is application of James Datoma, Melania Naito for a variation of section 15615, seeking permission to retain existing wood storage shed Property is located at 225 Forest Road, Mahopac, New York, and is known by tax map 742623. All right, state your names and address for the record.
James Tatoma, 225 Forest Road, Mahopac, New York.
Melena Naito, 225 Forest Road, Mahopac, New York, 10541.
All right, right hands. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay, bring us through this. Before you get started, though, I gotta ask, I was out there the other night. There's another shed that existing on the property that I don't know if it was on a prior,
That one should be on the survey.
yeah, but
But did you
on
get a
your
variance?
application, it asked for any previous, so was this ever picked up before,
How
Mike?
far is it from the property line?
It's actually closer to the property line than the wood shed.
that one.
2.6.
Yeah.
Is there any record of that, or?
Yeah, I thought this was opposite.
Doesn't say in the application, right, John? Yeah, but they have four copies.
Yeah, there's no previous record of it, so.
The one right next to it.
You got it? You don't have a permit for the first shed?
That was there when we bought the house, so that I don't know. It was on the survey.
That's the original shed location, the wood shed, something we added to the property. That was
Okay,
there when we purchased the house.
Building
This is a
permit,
pre-existing shed, the other one.
Yeah.
It's old. It's a pre-existing shed, the first one.
so
We did this when we were in the office.
it was conforming. All right, guys, do me a favor, just speak into the microphone. All right, so this is a wood shed, and obviously, and there's a lot of wood behind it, so I see the reason for it, for its seasoning. Is there any way that this can be brought in closer to be closer into conformance?
I prefer not to move it.
We'd have to probably dismantle it because it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, so that would
It's
be,
2 by 6s.
it'd be costly to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
What
I'd have to
kind of
dismantle
cost,
the
what
whole
kind of
thing.
idea?
What's that?
Just do me a favor, guys, speak into the microphone, so you can move it down.
I don't know, that's all pre-existing lumber that we had, so there was no
So
no
it'd be
expense to
time
actually.
and material to
Yeah.
move it, so $1,000, couple $1,000.
Probably.
There's nowhere else on the property that you can locate it to bring conformance, it's all septic there, right? So it's
Sewer.
not-
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I meant, sewer. Okay. How long has it been there for?
2 years?
Approximately 2 years. We had a fireplace put in when our house was rebuilt from Hurricane Sandy, which the fireplace actually heats 50% of the house. So that was the concept with the wood shed.
Okay.
Not realizing honestly that we actually had to have a permit for, I didn't consider that a complete shed, so
Yeah.
that was an oversight on my part.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No questions. No questions.
No question.
No questions, thank you.
I don't know if anybody else was out there. The pile of wood is very, very, very close to your neighbor's wood deck, and I have serious concerns about carpenter ants. I also noticed that you have a very, very, very large side yard for Secor standards. So I believe that that wood shed can be moved. I do have a real concern with how close it is to your neighbor's property, especially since you do have the luxury of having a lot of land on the side that it can be moved to. I think it's, having that wood close to your house, but even closer to your neighbors, creates problems for both of you with carpenter ants. I think it can be moved without even needing a variance. But I certainly would want it moved away from your neighbors, the wood pile, because it does create a problem for them and for you.
I don't think that would be under jurisdiction of this board, right, for the wood pile?
The wood pile's inside the shed, is what you're saying.
No,
There's a
there's
wood pile behind.
Behind
the
the
wood
shed.
shed.
Behind the
too.
shed.
It is not a jurisdiction of this board. That's
Right,
correct.
so I don't think we can mandate anything
Well,
on it, but,
the wood shed can be moved, though. That's one thing that could be moved, because if you were out there, you'd notice that they have a
that
sizable
was out
yard.
there. That's how I noticed the other shed.
It's not a zoning code. There is a code, but it's not zoned.
All right, John, any questions, concerns?
Could you clarify, for the public, shed here? What's a shed? Dimension, length and width?
It's based on
Or
a
is it-
certain size, right? It's on, over a certain size, it's a garage.
And under a certain size is a small shed.
Right.
Okay, so you have different setbacks. Once you go over 150 square feet, you need to go to the more strict setbacks. Under 150 or less, you can go 10 feet from the side and the rear property line with the shed.
It's all four sides covered in a roof for a shed, right? Or,
Three and a roof, yeah.
yeah,
Doesn't
three in
have
a
to have
roof.
four, but
This pile of wood is closer to the neighbor's stairs of the deck than it is to the applicant's house.
Well, that would be a matter between the two neighbors, if it is a matter.
Well,
No?
that would have been there for 4 to 5 years now. They've never complained. There's no sign of termites or anything.
Well, they actually have a solid fence, if you look at the picture.
Yeah, they put up a fence, a stockade fence, a 6-foot stockade that runs all the
And
way
you have a
across.
wire fence that the wood pile backs up to, so it's
Yes.
not even touching their fence.
And that
With a
wire
chain
fence
link,
sits on a
yeah.
2-foot cement, brick, stone wall.
Okay.
All right, any input from the public on this application? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, folks.
Thank you.
The games begin.
All right, number 4. Imperial Vape and Smoke Shop Incorporated seeking interpretation that applicants' rights to open and conduct a vape smoke shop have vested due to substantial expenditures made, or in the alternative, a use variance to conduct a vape smoke shop notwithstanding the moratorium enacted which forbids the opening of the same. Property is located at 441 Route 6, Mahopac, New York. Mr. Schilling representing?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Will these folks be speaking?
I'd like them to be sworn in. Anna especially, her English is better.
Okay, state your names and address for the record, and your address,
2621 Carmel Avenue, Brewster, New York, 10509.
and he is?
Same address, Nicolas Miguelanza.
All right, right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, thanks. Bill, you can move the microphone up if you need to.
This way?
Thank you.
As you know, the applicant is the Imperial Vape and Smoke Shop, Inc. Anna and Nick are directors and shareholders of the corporation that is the applicant tonight.
Bill,
Yeah.
actually, before you get
Yeah.
deep into this, we have some concerns, because we just got your memorandum of law yesterday.
I sent it last week.
Okay, according to our secretary and her notes. she
They were
read-
hand-delivered last Wednesday.
Okay. So there's some concern that the board members didn't get a chance to read this, which we didn't. Typically, she'll email it out to us, and that didn't occur.
I make it a
apologize.
point, Mr. Chairman, to get it a week before the meeting, and I did so in this instance, too. It was hand-delivered on Wednesday
Of last week, before.
of last week.
Before Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
All right. Greg, you think, I mean, it seems like some of the board members want an opportunity to read this. Is it okay to still hear the case and then?
You can hear the case, and then if your decision is that you need more information or you want extra time to read it, you can consider that in any motion board, but you can absolutely hear what the applicant has to say.
Okay. That's fine, Bill. If you want to proceed,
Mr. Chairman, I
we'll proceed
just
in that fashion.
want to stress to the board that timing is critical here. My clients have been paying rent since April, and so I wish you had read the memo, because I think it supports our position. There have been times when I don't submit paperwork, and I try to express our position as best we can, and I hope I can do that if you folks haven't had a chance to read it, but I
was
would
going to
never...
say, you usually hit the points that you're going to make anyway, so.
I do, and I hope I do, and I would never, ever deliver my paperwork a day before your hearing. I wouldn't do that.
We appreciate that.
So these folks are corporate officers. They are from the Republic of Georgia, having arrived in this country in 1999. The property is 441 Route 6. It's the little strip mall. It is a design shopping center under 15632 of your code. It is a former music store or DJ store. It consists of 700 square feet. There are no interior walls. There are no partitions. It's wide open space. There were no structural changes to be made to start the business. As I said, it's just 700 square feet approximately of open space. Our requested relief is an interpretation. And the interpretation is that my client's rights to conduct this shop, this smoke and vape shop, have vested due to substantial expenditures that they made prior to the moratorium. Hence, the definition in the moratorium about shops which have existed apply to our shop because of all the work and expenditures they've made prior to the imposition of the moratorium. In the alternative, we seek a use variance from the moratorium, and we look to create this smoke and vape shop, notwithstanding the dictates of the moratorium, which set a moratorium for a period of time by the town board. I did submit an affidavit from my client. I did submit a memorandum of law. The floor plan is nondescript. It's, as I said, wide open. There's no structural walls. There's no interior walls. It's just wide open space. The facts of this case are that the property is owned commercially. It's a design shopping center. My client started saving towards this shop last year, started preparing for this new smoke and vape shop. They negotiated terms of their lease in April of 2018. And because of the purported demand that the landlord had, they negotiated the lease, they signed the lease, and started paying rent on April 1st. They borrowed money in the winter of 2018 to make this shop happen. They incorporated in April of 2018. They signed a lease in April of 2018. They prepared their store from April and onward to present. They painted, they cleaned, they hired employees, they bought an inventory full of materials and supplies. They hired employees, they advertised, they purchased and installed signage. They purchased signage for their shop. They built in cabinets and files for their product.
Two different things.
They have chairs for patrons. Here's the inventory full with the shop. They did all this in anticipation of opening their shop as quickly as it was possibly feasible. They spent approximately $65,000 in anticipation of opening this shop. And they made what I would think anyone consider substantial expenditures towards the opening of their business. In August, they were advised they needed a building permit from the building department, which they filed for. As I understand it, and Mike can verify this, the only thing that was established or needed to be established by a building permit was that the use was compliant with code. There were no structural changes. There were no interior walls to move. There were nothing. They did put in some track lighting, by the way, but I believe the only thing that was required from the building department was a confirmation that the use was consistent with the commercial code. And again, there were no structural changes to made, only renovations, cleaning, repairing, installing cabinets, cash registers, and the like. On October 1 or thereabouts, the town imposed a moratorium, and the moratorium sought to disallow the establishment of new vape and smoke shops in the town. But it's critical to note that in the section of the moratorium, it says they're forbidden except those which are not currently in existence or in operation at the time of the enactment of this law. I submit to you that their rights have vested, that this business was in operation by virtue of the substantial expenditures they made, and hence they are not precluded from doing business under this moratorium. The temporary moratorium, as I said, stopped the establishment of new vape and smoke shops. But it says that it doesn't apply and for those not currently in existence or operation. Those businesses are not affected. And it's critical that, you know, and this is all about the timing is why we're here. My clients had no notice of this imposition of a pending moratorium. They acted in complete good faith, what everybody should have done in anticipation of creating a new business. They made substantial expenditures towards a business that they had no reason to expect wouldn't be authorized to move forward. And we ask you for your relief, because without it, they would have suffered a devastating financial loss. They're paying rent, they're paid for the inventory, they're advertised, they put in cabinets, they put in all these things in anticipation of opening their shop. They made substantial expenditures. In my memorandum of law, and Mr. Chairman, this is probably what you're alluding to, and to be honest with you, I've been practicing a long time. I never knew for sure that an applicant could challenge, seek an interpretation of, get a variance from a moratorium. It was something that was new to me. And I've provided you a memorandum of law that says you can. Just like any other ordinance, just like any other rule, just like any other statute, any act by the town board, any local law can be challenged, and a moratorium is nothing more or nothing less except that it's temporary. And I provided for you the Town of Montgomery case in your memorandum of law that says you can do this just like you can do any statute. A moratorium is nothing but statutory regulations promulgated by the town. So it's exactly the same. We have the right to challenge it. The law also says that the town board can put in its memorandum and its moratorium who has the right to hear the challenge. In other words, the town board, through its moratorium, can say if there are any variances, any relief requested, we should be heard, we the town board. And the law says, and I provided cases that say, if it's not in the moratorium language, you're the board. You're the board that hears it, because the town has the right to gain that authority. And if it's not there, you're the board that hears it. And in that, I cited other cases that say exactly that. In this moratorium, there's nothing that says who's to hear relief requests from people who have been perhaps prejudiced by the imposition of a moratorium. And in this case, you're the board to hear it, because the town board suggests nothing different in the language of their moratorium. The zoning board has powers. It has powers under your code to interpret their code under 156, 55B, and to issue variances from the code where relief is requested under 156A. That's all we're seeking. It's just like any other relief request that you've heard me and others heard for all these years. We're seeking relief from the imposition of the board. I want to read to you what the definition of vesting is, given to you by a case called the Matter of Elegate, and it's in your memo. Vesting is determined where an owner of premises containing a nonconforming use has undertaken substantial construction or made substantial expenditures prior to the effective date of the moratorium, and that is the Matter of Elegate, and it's in the memorandum. Here, my client has made substantial expenditures. Disregard the countless hours that these people put in anticipating and hoping to start a new business, to start their career here. $65,000 expended. Building permit, they believed, only to determine whether the use was in compliance with the code. They purchased signs, they hired employees, they purchased inventory, they advertised, it's furnished, lighting, everything in anticipation of opening their store. And I don't know anyone who could say, well, you should have known, because they didn't know, and this town passes about 3 or 4 moratoriums a year. There was no notice to my client that they should stop and wait. And I don't think anybody who thinks they should have is being fair to my clients. Moratorium is not applicable because this operation was in existence by virtue of vesting having been taken place because of the substantial expenditures. Again, I tell you, they acted in good faith, and if denied, they will incur substantial financial hardship. That's our request for the interpretation. With request to the use variance, if you're not comfortable with interpreting, we can make a very, very strong case for our use variance. 15655A of your code allows you to grant use variances upon the finding of 4 criteria. And again, the case of Montgomery says that just like on any other statute, rule, or law, you can grant variances from a moratorium. It's just like any other statute, nothing different except it's temporary. Under the 4 criteria of the use variance, I believe economic hardship, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but they've spent an awful lot of money in anticipation. They won't change the neighborhood. There are smoke shops in the town of Carmel. They'll comply with the terms of the neighborhood. The biggest thing I can tell you here is this is all about timing. If they'd have known, they'd have stopped. They didn't know. This is unique because anybody who starts trying to do it now is bound by the findings of the moratorium. And of course, they'd have to stop. My clients committed all that money and all that time prior to the imposition of a moratorium and without any knowledge that it was coming. That's why this is a unique application with use variance standards. The neighborhood, same thing. There'll be no change in the neighborhood. It fits well with the strip mall where it finds itself. There are no structural changes, no aesthetic changes. And the law says the neighborhood is the most important criteria. I welcome a discussion of self-creation. It's not here. My clients acted in good faith. They would have never done this had they had any inclination that there was a moratorium coming.
Bill, on that point, you said they went in April to the town, to the building department?
No, they sought an application for a building permit in August.
Okay, and even at that point, there was no indication of this moratorium, even from the building department, or was there any knowledge?
There was a town board meeting on July 31st that specifically started the discussion on the town moratorium. I have the minutes, and the discussion was ongoing, so that was already in play.
It was in play, okay. I didn't know about it at the
It was in
first
play, but it wasn't enacted.
application when they first
No,
dropped
it
it off.
wasn't
I didn't
enacted,
know.
it wasn't enacted until, like Mr. Schilling said, but the conversations were going on. It was there.
I'm sure that's true, Silvio. However, conversations doesn't necessarily dictate the establishment of a moratorium.
Understood,
And
but-
my clients didn't know of the discussions going on. I ask you to employ your basic instincts of fairness in this matter. I did supply a case to you where it said, will the application being granted thwart the intent of the moratorium? And I say to you, one more smoke shop, and only one, because everybody else will be bound by the moratorium, will not thwart the town's prerogative and the town's desire to revisit the issue of these smoke shops. I'll summarize. The use is vested, and because the use is vested, it's an exception from the moratorium because of substantial expenditures. That's the interpretation I'm asking. If you don't seek to use the interpretation, I ask you, employ the 4 items of use variance, please. Substantial hardship, neighborhood, uniqueness, and self-creation. They're all there.
Except that you have to prove the financial. There's nothing in front of us. You would have to show us all the receipts. You'd have to show us everything, and we don't have that, so we couldn't make that determination tonight. That's an
Well,
automatic
Would you like
negative.
the testimony of my client as to what they paid?
I would like to see the receipts, actually,
Well,
because that's required, I'm within my rights to ask for those. I would love to see the receipts, because I want to see the timing of it, because I want to see when substantiality really kicked in.
they signed a lease on April 1st. They pay the rent starting April 1st.
When did they buy their inventory?
That
When
may
did
be
they
the
start?
case.
Sorry?
These are all the different things I would need to see, because I would like to see the true financial hardship up until when the moratorium hit. That's, to me,
Financial hardship can be established by testimony. I'd ask my client to go up and swear to all the money they spent. I mean, if you want documented, it's not required. It might be requested, but it's not a requirement.
well, from my standpoint, Bill, and this is just me, and I'm only one board member, but you're making the argument on timing, so timing's critical here, so I would love to see that. So, because, again, if there was expenditures after October 1st, your argument goes out the door, regardless of whether they knew or they not, your argument goes out the door.
They'll
So,
testify that all the expenditures that I talked about, the $65,000, were done in the spring.
Bill?
And it's self-evident with all of the things you see here, with the inventory being in, and the cabinetry, and the shelving, and the signage. I mean, if it looks like a duck, they've done it.
The
And
only
and
thing
if
I'll
you're
add.
not- And if you're not comfortable with use variance, please look at the interpretation. The interpretation being that their rights are vested by all the monies they've spent prior to the imposition of the moratorium.
And on interpretation, if I could just ask you for a second, when you put the section from the code regarding interpretation,
Yeah.
you left out at the very end where it says, interpretation of any provisions of this chapter.
Right.
Are you saying the moratorium is a provision of the chapter?
Yes, I'm saying it's an extension.
It's actually in zoning, it's 156-39-6. So it was put in zoning, and so the statements that Mr. Schilling was making about you having the authority to interpret it are correct. It is a part of chapter 156, it's exclusively under your purview.
Bill, from what I can tell, their rent will equal $15,735 per year. They've paid 6 months. That brings us to $7,867. Then I see a security of $1,200. That brings us to $9,000. That's a far cry from $65,000. How do you get to 65 from 9?
Inventory. They've,
Well, do you have receipts of the inventory you purchased?
Can they be returned, the inventory?
It's been bought months before.
Just speak to the mic, sorry.
It has been more, months before. We even, when we start talking about it, that we're gonna order the shop, some of the items he was buying before we even got the space.
And the
Because
inventories-
we were looking at various properties, considering since 2017 where we're gonna open it, and we selected this place for our reasons, we thought it was isolated.
Where is the inventory currently being stored?
Most of it is in the store, but also we have, it's a storage, additional inventory that it's
You
not.
don't happen to have any pictures on your phone or anything, do you?
Yes, I mean,
I don't know if that would satisfy some,
They've sworn under oath.
we bought the cash register, we had people coming and install it. We had to learn all of it because I never worked with the cash register. One of the reasons that we stretched so, one of the reasons that we stretched so long from April to now to finalize it is the one thing that I didn't know. I never worked with this register, so I had to load it up, all our inventory that we had accumulated up to July to the cash register PO system. And I had to learn and work at nights just to load all of this stuff in. And one of the reasons we were held up and not did anything sooner because I just didn't know how to do it faster.
all right, what is the value of the renovations that you put in cabinets, seating, carpeting, finishes?
There was some damages that we didn't change the layout, but there were some damages from previous owner. They ripped off something from the wall, left it the wall like that. We had to put the sheetrock back, spackle the holes, make sure that every electrical outlet had a cover on it to make sure it's safe. The lights were in, but they were in, some of them working, some of them not. So we had to, some of them replace with the new ones, some of them, but exactly same type because they had to match. And light bulbs changed,
So
paint the whole.
what's the estimated value of repairs and maintenance that were?
Including the shelving and including the cabinetry?
Yeah, something 50 to 20,000 to do that.
Did you hire someone to do the work, or did you do the work by yourself?
We hired some of the
Every guy I hired.
yeah, we hired the people
And,
to paint.
I
the-
do construction, and some of them I did. I hired. I have a business, where we spend the money. I
He-
hiring
Speak into the mic, please.
as soon as we was to try to open the store, I hiring, we advertising we need to do, the store, who can run who have experience.
Cashier.
The
and
cashier.
manager.
And I can prove I spent, the inventory, probably like 45,000 plus, the very, I bought the table, like display
Display
cabinets. I say approximately 65,000 I spent at this store.
And Greg? Yes. Is verbal, is that enough proof for, this is on record for?
Yeah, I mean, the sworn testimony is evidence, okay?
Evidence,
So
okay.
there's two sets of circumstances here. One is the testimony about the expenditures for the purposes of vesting, and one is the purposes of the dollars and cents proof that they can't realize a reasonable return at current zoning. That's the use variance. I'm assuming this is all with respect to the expenditures that they vested on the vesting argument. So it's sworn testimony, it's evidence. You can
So
accord it whatever
45
weight.
45
feels
for
appropriate.
inventory, 15 for maintenance and repairs. The rent, you paid the rent up to half a year, up
1,000, yeah.
9,000, so, yeah, you're
And
close to
security.
65.
And was there legal fees involved too? I mean, someone negotiate this lease, someone formed the corporation for you? Yeah, so you have to add in legal
That's in there
fees as
too.
well? Anyone who starts a business knows that it starts well before the first sale.
We even had setback on that. We opened the company as the Imperial Vape Shop, and then we had to call them back and refile it as Imperial Smoke and Vape Shop. So we did even that. I mean, we haven't done this before. We never ran the store, so it's a learning experience for us as well.
Do you have an online presence?
Yes.
Do you take orders online?
We haven't opened yet anywhere, so.
But you
no,
will be?
But maybe if we expand, in order to run online, we have more inventory and the bigger operation, and I'm not sure we are ready for that yet. We can't even finalize the store itself. we were hoping open in July and it moved in August and so on.
You have parking, you have seating there? Is it just going to be 3 seats at one table, or are you planning to?
It's more like if the customer comes to wait, so they are comfortable. We have little seats for the cashier as well, so there's, we thought of like making everybody comfortable. And one of the things for the windows, original thought was we wanted to have it screened, and then the lettering and the design came afterwards as an additional, because you cannot see the store from outside and it's translucent from outside. So that was intentional also. We were trying to keep it more like inward. So it's an adult product. We don't want children involved. So the screening was our original thought that was a smart way of doing it.
So there are no other seats in there?
No.
Okay, because someone had mentioned at one time from another smoke shop that they wanted a lounge, and they wanted people to be able to sit.
No, we actually talked about it and we decided lounge was not a good idea. We don't want people to linger. We want them to buy and go. There's not enough parking in front of it, and it's not a cafe, it's a store.
Okay, and there's enough parking, Michael?
Yeah, the parking was already figured years ago. That's
That's an old one.
Based on square footage.
yeah. They're not adding anything.
All right. Are there any other questions from the board members?
Not at this time.
No questions?
No questions.
No further, thank you.
No questions.
John, good. So, I guess we can determine now if we want to make the interpretation, and then you want to bring us through the use, or are you set with your presentation, Bill?
With regard to use variance, I went through the 4 criteria. There's the economic hardship, the neighborhood, the uniqueness, which is all in the timing, and the self-creation that my clients were totally unaware of this. So I'd be happy, and I'd ask my clients to answer any questions you have, but I hope to think that I addressed both issues enough to make a decision.
All right. Is there any input from the public on this application? Come on up, state your name, speak into the podium. State your name and address for the record.
Jean-Luc Santos, 633 Ridge Street, Peekskill, New York, 10566.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
You do?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
So, personally, as myself, I am one of the current employees for Imperial Vape Shop, and I wanted to make it known to the board that I know most of the big concerns in this situation is the teen issue. I know that for a fact, because I've seen it myself in numerous different ways. Me growing up in 1999 from the Bronx, me moving up here at 16. I went through it, I seen everything from high school, I seen people smoking at
Do me
that
a favor,
time.
you can raise the mic, yeah.
I seen 15, 16-year-olds smoking at that time. And I know it's a giant issue, but we figured out a way to avoid anything of that happening. We have security cameras. We're going to have a person watching and IDing people in front of the door. Let alone, we're also going to be making sure to double-check IDs even during checkout process. I have numerous people that have contacted me waiting for different places because prices are one big issue, because most of these vape shops are charging over prices. But the main thing is that we're not focused on making the money. Okay, our main focus is actually helping the people that have an addiction to this nicotine product, because if you want to be technical about it, and I don't have any proof, but there are statistics and people that prove that nicotine is not bad for you. There's science behind it as well. And it shows that what's addictive is the nicotine itself, but the problem that what kills you and what causes all these problems is the tar from the cigarettes. And if you look at the ingredients on our vape products, it's vegetable gelatin, flavoring, and it has a little bit of nicotine and has different levels. Because it all depends on how much you smoke per day. If you smoke a half a pack. If you smoke a full pack, that'll be 3 to 6 milligrams of nicotine inside each bottle. So, me saying that is like saying, how can I put it? Me saying that is like putting how am I supposed to say this? I'll make myself look stupid. I'm sorry.
Take your time.
I'm sorry about that.
I think we know what you're
But
trying to
you
get
guys
at.
you guys know what I'm saying.
We
We're
know.
trying to avoid any type of contact where it's initiative that minors are gonna get in touch with it, which we're not going to do. We're gonna check IDs, we're gonna watch everything for that. And that's like, I just wanted to like put that out there so everyone can, know about that.
Okay, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Excuse me, what's CBD?
Oh, CBD is, if you want to be technical about it, and if you were going into science of CBD oil, it's from the THC plant. But the thing about it is, it's more of a muscle relaxant. So that's what its main use is for.
And it's legal?
Yes.
What's a THC plant?
Oh, the marijuana plant.
Oh, sorry.
That's what's illegal.
I didn't know, I wasn't,
But
And none of
I thought
this
there's a
is
plant that grew
before us,
THC.
right, Greg? None of this
No,
issue is not before us, right?
That's not our problem. No, no.
You let him speak, but in terms of what criteria you're considering either for vesting argument
Yeah.
or, for the use variance, I'm assuming it's just, basically the business plan and the business operations, which is, certainly can hear it, but it's not something you're probably going to consider in granting. or
I just saw it
considering
on the
variance.
window. I saw the sign on the window, so I was just curious.
Yeah. We work with like the best one out there, and it's actually the most helpful to release the stress and the pain in muscles.
I only got introduced with this because we started the shop. CBD oil materials and creams and stuff is sold in CVS and other drugstores.
Yeah.
We're not doing something that's not out there already.
Bottom line is, it's a legal product and it's a legal business.
Okay. So, anybody else from the public wish to be heard on this application? Okay. I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
All right, and last case tonight is number 5, Joseph Duane, for variation of section 15615, seeking permission to add a second floor and front porch. The property is located at 22 Dixon Lake Drive, Mahopac, New York, 10541, which is actually right down the road from the previous one.
All right.
How are you?
How you doing?
Good, you can turn that up if you don't mind. All right, state your name and address for the record.
Joseph Duane, 22 Dixon Lake Drive, Mahopac, New York.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You can turn that up so you don't have to lean over. Okay, bring us through what you're seeking here.
Me and my family are planning on putting a second floor on our property, and we're asking the board for a variance on the frontage.
All right, so similar to the case earlier tonight, you're expanding on the existing footprint, correct, on the foundation? And are you coming out forward? I don't,
Yes, we are. We're putting a porch across the front.
oh, you are, so it's the same.
Same thing.
Basically same situation. But you're not encroaching left or right on the existing footprint, correct?
No.
All right, and you're not, I guess your septic is back further?
It's actually to the right of the property.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then it works its way to the back. The tank's to the right.
That's where your
Yeah,
fields are?
Yeah, fields to the back.
Okay.
That's why you have a pool. where it
Family's
is.
growing, expanding?
Yeah, we're busting at the seams.
All right. Now, it's a nice-looking design, and again, it's not out of character with the neighborhood and those new expansions that are there, and it's not a very extreme variance. It's to the front yard's 12 feet, but again, it's within character. Any questions from the board?
Mark? Adding, how many bathrooms are you adding?
There'll be a total of 3 bathrooms, one existing and then 2 upstairs.
One's downstairs and
Yeah.
2 more?
Yes.
Is there town water sewer over there? No, right?
That's under the purview of the Board of Health. He wouldn't get permission for it without, they've
So
got
it's
to
a
come
well?
through us first.
Is it a well?
Correct.
Is it your own well?
It's a shared well,
A shared well
correct.
with the neighbor?
Yes.
Any concerns from the neighbor at all?
No, they're in favor of it, on both sides.
No questions? More?
So I think it's 2
questions?
houses down from the earlier application.
The same thing. Porch is minimal, no issues. No question.
No questions, thank you.
Questions?
John?
I mean, is there any wetland survey around the property? Do we know if there's any wetlands on this, on the site?
No, it would have been picked up by,
You would pick that up?
like, if,
It would get picked up? Right. Thank you.
all right, is there any input from the public on this application? All right, look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that concludes our open, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in 10.
Right, exactly.
When you said it was shared, they're gonna put that away.